You go back to the earliest film days, cameras were very bulky, massive machines, and largely pretty static. You had to mount them on a tripod, the early tripods, because of how heavy they were. Things like handheld and steady cams, those did not exist. We're still a ways out from that, but originally kind of the determination of all these figures who were helping invent film and cinema realized the 35 millimeter gauge worked very well, kind of carrying that over from still photography. That the 35 millimeter gauge was great for details, for still photos, and thus could be for the motion picture as well. So kind of determining that universally around the world that the 35 millimeter film gauge worked. First obviously in black and white, and then eventually when color comes into the mix, that's still pretty much the case until we start getting experiments with specialized formats that are even bigger. You have 65 millimeter, 70 millimeter, even later on you have IMAX.
And specifically working in film and video, video was then on open reel half-inch videotape. And then it went to 3/4 inch tape, and then VHS, and then digital, and we just went on and went on. So the technology has expanded a lot in the 40 years that I've been in business.
And then of course CGI, computer generated imagery, the development of computer hardware and software that reshaped how visual effects could be produced, from the practical, physical, on-camera means of makeup, prosthetics, miniatures, models, set building, and other such things that now you could really have a lot more production economy, save money, save time by doing your visual effects digitally in computer-generated images. So the technology where computers were able and capable enough to create astounding computer-generated images in visual effects. So technology has been massive in all areas of filmmaking and film history, and I don't think we should forget that. We kind of curse a lot of the technological advances both in movies and in life in the world, but think of how much it's improved quality of life and has objectively improved the quality of movies in a lot of ways.
What do you mean we don't know exactly how it works? It was designed by people.
No, it wasn't. What we did was we designed the learning algorithm. That's a bit like designing the principle of evolution. But when this learning algorithm then interacts with data, it produces complicated neural networks that are good at doing things, but we don't really understand exactly how they do those things.
And the cool thing about AI, actually, that I've been kind of experimenting with more recently, because there's some new softwares that are out, is that you can have it, you can put it all into like a workspace, like a database, and you can have it interact with all of the information collectively, which is sort of like a big upgrade from like giving it an individual topic to work on, and then it just kind of gives you stuff about that individual topic.
The genie's out of the bottle. It's not going back in. We're never putting that back in the bottle, so it's about trying to adapt to this. But what AI, I think, can be used for broadly in all realms, not just in cinema, is a tool, right? An effective tool, just like a camera, a microphone, lighting, editing software. All of these things are effective tools on how to make a film. And I think AI can be an assistive tool in a very productive way.
Does humanity know what it's doing?
No. I think we're moving into a period when, for the first time ever, we may have things more intelligent than us.
There are our tactics and our techniques and our skill sets, but there are no regulations of how to use a C-stand, right? There's just the proper way or the improper way. But if you remove all the gear and you remove all the need for safety and all that crap, then there's no regulations. I mean, the regulations will move into another realm of like copyright and trademark and patents and that kind of stuff.
I'll use an example for one of the recent Indiana Jones movies where Harrison Ford was de-aged for a part of the film. He gave permission for that, but that specific film. So the contract, from what I understand, was written in the sense that this is the only way you can use it. You can't use this footage for anything else. You can't use my image for anything else. It's just for this. So the artist gave permission, the actor gave permission for this specific usage. So I think as long as the people who have gained the rights to do so, the family, whatever, it's really up to them. I know that there's an actor who's passed away. His name was Edward Herman. He's been in a number of films, very, very beautiful voice. And he had done a bunch of audio books. And his family wanted to continue that. So they gave permission for the use of AI to recreate his voice to do various audiobooks. That's up to them, you know. I mean, they're giving specific permission for specific things. It's when it's stolen and people are using it. That's what I worry about. The fact that you can do that. So it kind of negates all this permission, you know, when, you know, somebody can just say, well, I'm just going to do it anyway. And the stuff leaks out and then people get... Look, it's happened for decades, even before AI was in existence. People were doing deepfakes and creating images and false images, even using Photoshop and whatnot. So it's just something that we're going to have to contend with now that it's... You can do it rather cheaply, and so a lot of people are just doing it because...
I rebuke AI. I'm just gonna say it. I fucking rebuke it in my life. I rebuke it in my. I don't need it. I don't want it. I'm taking the warnings from the people who created it. Like, this is fucking dangerous, and I'm taking that seriously.
I don't know. I think my main message is there's enormous uncertainty about what's going to happen next. These things do understand, and because they understand, we need to think hard about what's going to happen next, and we just don't know.
Who's using it? You know, it's got to be in the right hands, in the right usage of it. So, you know, for that matter, when you're looking at the new creations by James Cameron in the Avatar movies, it's beautiful, you know, visual effects and animation, you know. But luckily, still, there's humans behind that. And how they're creating it is that these actors are wearing special suits that are capturing, you know, image capturing, you know. So it's still human beings interacting with science, and I think that is great.
Go to the other end of the spectrum, and you've got generative AI, where they can make up a character, they can make up an actor, they can make up a performance from scratch with a text prompt. It's like, no, that's horrifying to me. That's the opposite. That's exactly what we're not doing.
And why is it horrifying to you?
It's horrifying to me because I don't, you know, first of all, I don't want a computer doing what I pride myself on being able to do with actors. I don't want to replace actors. I love working with actors.
How the technology is basically taking the place of live performers, live voice work. The thing that I really resent is the use of AI to take jobs away from living people. And there's been a lot of talk about that. And that's just one aspect of it in our business.
The name is Tilly Norwood. She appears to be a fresh-faced young woman who posts about pursuing an acting career. The reason this is getting attention is this actress is completely AI-generated by a company called Particle 6.
Produced this model called Tiffany. I thought it was Tiffany Norwood, but Tiffy. And then they tried to get it signed by like an agency or something, a talent agency.
when news broke that a digital performer named Tilly Norwood was reportedly in talks to sign with a real Hollywood talent agency, Stella's friend sent her the story. At first, Stella thought it was a prank, but then she saw Tilly and couldn't believe her eyes.
But it keeps sending me this picture and I'm freaking out. Cut the cameras, guys, it's not funny anymore. The prank's over.
And then naturally, SAG-AFTRA, which is, to my understanding, made up of 100% human individuals who are also actors.
SAG-AFTRA, the union representing actors in the U.S., it released a statement saying creativity is and should remain human-centered. ACTRA, the union in Canada, is pushing back on Norwood too.
Is 100% not an actor. It's an amalgamation of probably hundreds, if not thousands, of professional actors, performers, who have not been compensated at all for this.
First of all, I think sensitive human beings and people who are interested in the arts and love and embrace the arts are going to see right through all that bullshit. And they're going to see right through it for a long time because they're never going to make, what's her name, Kelly, look and be and feel like a real human being. And then what? That can only happen in a virtual world anyway. There is no Kelly robot or cyborg yet that can interact in three-dimensional space with other actors yet. So that whole thing is just in a virtual world anyway.
I mean, at the onset, because this is not an actor, this is not not someone who is trained in acting. This is not a person who has worked and studied for her whole life and for years to become an actor, who has poured so much of herself into this craft of acting, which is a very, very specialized, very difficult, and very, very human skill to act, to emote for a camera or on a stage. That's only something a human can do.
I don't know, buddy. I think there'll be, I think there will be somewhat of a audience revolt. And people are going to want to see real actors done on real cameras, done with real lights and real environments like Hawaii or Canada or whatever, wherever you're shooting. And AI is a long way from replicating that in any level of perfection.
When we present films that we know have AI elements in it, especially when it's taken away a job from an actor, let's say for an instance, and then we do Q&A, I make sure we point out that this filmmaker was using AI and tell us how you used it. And then I turn to the audience and I say, I want all my actors in the audience to raise their hands, and they do. And then I say, how do you feel about him not using a live performer? And they're furious.
This goes back almost 100 years at this point, where filmmakers have made movies to warn us about this sort of thing. Fritz Lang's Metropolis from 1927, almost a 100-year-old movie, tells us that maybe this is not the best idea, to make a robotic entity as human-like as possible, to try to replicate humanity onto a robotic life form. Metropolis warned us about that a very long time ago. And so I would ask you to watch that. I'd ask you to watch 2001: A Space Odyssey, Terminator, Terminator 2, The Matrix, and WALL-E. Watch all of these, please, to just remember where this could all be heading if we don't get a grip on it, if we don't keep it in mind of what it is. It's not just about the danger it represents to filmmaking and cinema and to all art, but to what it could do to us all. These movies have tried to tell us this for a very, very long time. And just to be a little frank and abrupt, I want to quote the great Guillermo del Toro, who just made an amazing new adaptation of Frankenstein, which I also recommend, but who did not use a shred of AI in the making of his movie, and really insists on that. And said on the press tour recently, if I may, how it kind of reflects my feelings. Fuck AI. I think you see a lot of the filmmakers who feel very strongly about this for good reason. Not because it's a threat to their lives, but because it might be that, but it's a threat to this art, and they see that. And so I just ask everyone to to be mindful, nothing else, because it's here. It's not going anywhere. The genie's out of the bottle. So please just be aware. Just be mindful. And from there, we can start hopefully rebelling against it before that's too late. Kind of a joke, sort of. Thanks.